Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining us again on our Wednesday Zoom call. We really appreciate you taking the time out to be with us. Today, we got a really special guest. We've got Brandon Richards with us. He's going to go over how to find land deals and structure creative offers and probably a lot more than that. Brandon, through the years, has raised over $15 million in private capital, completed land deals across multiple states, expert in owner finance, wrap strategies, and he's founder of Operation Freedom. So, Brandon's got a lot going on. And without further ado,
Across
Brandon,
multiple states.
go ahead and give us your story.
Okay. Yeah. Again, my name is Brandon Richards. I've been in real estate just about 10 years now. I started a little backwards, some would say. Organically speaking, I thought it was the right way to go. I went, at the time I was owner operator of a carpet cleaning company, and I knew zero about real estate. So Google searched real estate, and I thought the obvious entry was going to be to become a realtor. I thought realtors just knew the ins and out of the real estate world and every capacity there is, but quickly discovered that wasn't the case. Started out Century 21. Nobody was doing anything in the investment side, and quickly found a new brokerage. Anyways, long story short, I got the license first and partnered on some JV wholesale deals. My very first wholesale by myself, direct to seller and buyer, was a home run. I made a ton of money there, and I knew that was the route to go. And then the very next mail campaign, I contracted my first flip. The buyer of that wholesale funded my flip for me, and I was off to the races. I flipped a bunch of houses since then, somewhere north of 70, wholesaled hundreds of them. And along the way, I've explored various avenues of real estate, everything from small apartments, storage facilities, owner finance, and my current niche, which I likely will stay in for quite some time, is land. I buy land off market, direct to seller, and my desired exit is selling those properties owner finance to retail buyers. And my approach to land is a little bit different than what most people are teaching on the internet right now. Most people will say that wholesaling land is the route to go. I don't like it. I've never been a huge fan of wholesaling. It's an entirely different branch of business that I never found to be very fun. It's not risky per se, but building an entire new buyer database that you have to rely on to do all the right things, almost in a sense on your behalf to get paid, is not how I like to operate. So what I do is I buy what I consider staycation land. And what that means is basically I don't want my end buyer to ever pay me off. I want that note to go to full amortization. So I look in areas where people want to put an RV, throw up a tent, maybe build a small tiny home, or at some point they might build. But I'm in areas where the end buyer doesn't necessarily want or have the ability to build. So that keeps my note paying. So what I mean by that is I buy land near national parks, big popular lakes. So where I first started doing land was in Arizona. And so I lived in Flagstaff. I was 2 hours north of Phoenix. And that 2 hour difference is about, on any given day, somewhere between 20 and 40 degree temperature difference. So when Phoenix is 110 degrees, people want to be where I was at. And where I'm at, there's a small area just north of us we all know as the Grand Canyon. Well, everybody wants to go to the Grand Canyon. Everybody wants to be in cooler weather. So I started buying acre lots super cheap, somewhere between about 14 and 18,000. And I was selling those between 50 and $65,000 on terms. And those notes, depending on down payment and length of amortization schedule, pay me somewhere between 480 and 1,200 bucks a month. And so I love it. I mean, I've owned, like I said, just a little bit back, I've owned duplexes, triplexes, single families, apartments. And while those all are great and have various huge tax benefits, the headache of screening tenants not paying, having to call contractors. I was flipping, when I first started flipping houses, I went from 1 to 5 to 10 flips at a time pretty quickly. And the nightmare of managing, most importantly, the money of flipping that many houses at a time, but the contractors constantly flaking and getting screwed, and this coming, problem after problem after problem. So it was like, I love real estate and I know real estate, but what's next? And so I had briefly learned the owner finance way in the beginning, but I was convinced by several people that wasn't the route to go. And by happenstance, about COVID time, I bought a parcel, an acre, for $18,000, and I planned on putting a brand new double wide on there. But everybody knows in COVID, nothing was happening in a timely fashion. And so as I'm waiting and constantly getting pushed by the manufacturer for my house to show up, which eventually showed up 15 months later, 13 months late, right? I sold that $18,000 parcel for $55,000 in a week. And I was like, oh, I might have something here. I just made what I expected to make in a 4 to 6 month time frame with my double wide in a week with this land. So I sold that land, I bought a new one, I ended up placing the coming property, and I made about 40,000 where I made about 40,000 on the land before. So I was like, oh, I guess there's something to this land. So I did it again and it worked. And I did it again. And since then, dozens and dozens of transactions later, I like land. I don't call contractors. I don't deal with the typical emotional conundrum from sellers. Typically, some people are attached to land for a variety of reasons, but it's not the same thing as a house or a house that's occupied with tenants or whatever the case is. So I just deal with half the stress. And then another key factor was when I was doing flips and placing double wides in Northern Arizona, for every single property, I was raising somewhere between $250,000 and $500,000. That can be a lot, especially the burden of the interest and carry cost versus land. Now, now that I'm in Alaska, I can buy a piece of property somewhere between 3,000 and 100,000, and the carry cost is substantially less. The risk is substantially less, and I'm buying at 30, 50% of market value. So my risk has gone substantially down, and my risk tolerance is quite high. I've done a lot of things in real estate, and I've settled on land because it's not easy, but it's the most stress-free. And when you sell on terms, it's the most passive form of income you can create in real estate, aside from being a contributor or an LP in a syndication. And those, as we know, are incredibly risky depending on who the operator is, right? So I have settled on land. The downside being is my tax advantages are very low. I'm taxed a little bit differently because of the capital gain aspect of it is chopped down substantially. But as I build this land portfolio, the intention is to go back into apartments. But right now, I'm just stuck in land. I like it.
Cool, man. Yeah, that's exactly. I feel the same way about the owner finance, and I tell people all the time that the truest form of passive income is through the owner finance type model.
Right.
And I've done it for 20 years, finance properties like that. Never done, done some land, but, done a lot of houses and stuff like
Yeah.
that. Wraps, land contracts, promissory notes, deed of trust, a lot of different avenues.
Yeah, I've never done land contracts or rent to own. I've been deed of trust states, so it's just always promissory note, deed of trust. And moreover, I don't get the tenant phone calls, right? When I did my very first note, it was on a single wide mobile home in Podunk, Texas. Bought it for 15, sold it for 44,000, whatever it was. And about a month in, she called and says, "Hey, Brandon, my water heater isn't working." And I felt bad. I was like, "I'm sorry, I'm the bank. That's a you problem, unfortunately." And that was a switch in my mind. It's like, hell yeah, I can do anything I want and not have to worry about phone calls coming in from tenants, right? So it's been a pretty cool ride. And a lot of people think real estate in general is illiquid, capital wise, but with notes you have so many options to recoup capital if you need or want to. You can sell the entire note, you can sell portions of the note. There's a lot of creative ways to run your business in the owner finance note world. It's kind of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, those tenant calls are tough. I had a call just the other morning, and they're crazy calls too. You just never know. And so this call is like my property manager calls and says, "Hey, man, the house is such and such. We got squirrels in the attic."
Could be a small issue or a giant issue.
And I'm like, "Okay, we got squirrels." Yeah, man. So they chewed a hole through the soffit outside, and they're in the attic, and it sounds like they're playing straight bass upstairs, freeze tag.
That's funny because a memory came up on my Facebook today from 2019 when I was still doing houses. And, one of the things you look at in your walkthrough with the seller is you're looking for water damage. And so I look in the ceiling and it looks like a substantial amount of water damage. So I go up in the attic, try to figure it's either the AC or a roof leak, right? It was rodent pee. There was so much raccoon pee in the attic that it was seeping through the drywall and it looked like there was water damage. And
Cool. Yeah. So if you're or one of our listeners out there, somebody watches this replay and they're just kind of getting going and they've been considering starting, maybe buying some land, they've watched some videos and stuff. What would be some actionable steps you could kind of give a beginner? What would you do first, and how would you start to vet some deals and start looking at some property?
Okay, there's a lot. Well, first, you need to treat any entrepreneurial venture as a business from day one. So you need to be organized from day one. That's numero uno. And so that means knowing where and what softwares to use to pull your list and to track those leads. So a stout, robust CRM, and moreover, you just need to go after it. It's because land can be done anywhere in the world. A lot of people will want to try to go to a market that they think is cool or that is talked a lot about on social media. And so right now, if you talk to any rental portfolio owners, Ohio is a hot topic. Georgia is a hot topic. Central Texas, hot topic. All of these high rental markets are hot topics. Same thing with apartment syndications, Northern Arkansas, Georgia, Atlanta. Everybody's moving out of the Florida market in regards to condos and houses and short-term rentals. There's all these hot areas in every single niche. I would argue that ignoring all of that is more beneficial and operating in your backyard first, then going into where you think is cool. Because you can, if you're new to real estate, you need to be hands-on. You need to go look at it for a variety of reasons. You need to make sure that the aerial image, if it shows very dense trees, you want to ensure that the trees are still there before you buy it. You want to ensure utilities are on site if you need utilities to be able to wholesale to a developer. You want to ensure that the grade or topography of the property is what it is and it hasn't been adjusted in any form or fashion by a prior owner that Google Maps isn't showing you. And so organized, proper softwares, and operating in your backyard first to learn it and then expanding. Because in the beginning, you do need to be hands-on. Now, I don't go to anywhere. I buy land in Arizona and I buy these remote parcels. I don't ever go to them because I've seen enough desktop due diligence to know if my play is the right play. And then decide how you want to operate. Do you want to wholesale? If so, you need to build that buyer's list now, or do you want to buy? And you got to determine if you've got the right capital, personal capital to do it, or go private money. I've done private money since day one. Only 2 times in the last 10 years have I ever used my own money. It's always been private money. And I do that for a variety of reasons. It's the revolution or evolution of capital. I can move quicker knowing that I have essentially unlimited capital to buy what I want. And I buy at a steep enough discount that I don't care what I pay. My property that I bought and that Sandra is selling, effectively, I'll be in and out of that property in less than 3 months, hopefully, as long as these people don't bail. Typically, what I'll pay is a double-digit return with a minimum, and that minimum is typically double the full payment if it had gone to 6 months. Meaning, if I'm paying 12% and that 12% is $1,000 over 6 months, I'll pay $2,000. So it's annualized at a double-digit return. And so I don't care what I'm paying in my investors as long as it meets my return, right? And so sometimes I'm paying these people upwards of almost 30%. I don't care. I'm getting paid. I'm not missing the opportunity because I'm paying somebody what an outsider would consider unreasonable. It's how all businesses operate. And I made a post about this the other day. I'm kind of going on a tangent here, but a lot of people are like, I'm not paying somebody 10%, 12%, 14% to buy a property. But what do you think you're doing when you own a restaurant? You got 60, 70% of overheads and cogs. That's an expense. So if I'm paying a fraction of that to an investor, what do I care? I'm still paying to play like any other entrepreneur in any other space known to man. It's just the thing that I don't care about. And same thing goes for if I happen to buy a property from a wholesaler. I don't care if you're making $100 or $100,000. If that meets my buy box, I'm going to buy it. And it's just like, it's the cost of business, just like anything else.
I'm curious on your private money. Do you do the private money lenders, do they stay in place through the course of the note, or do you try to get them out?
Mix of both. It depends on the initial conversation with that investor, right? So if they want to be in that note long term, then I'll wrap it. So I go into that property knowing that I have to remove the due on sale, and I typically do an addendum that both lender and buyer sign that discloses that this is a wrap. If in some for some reason I default, buyer and lender they're allowed to communicate and limit risk that way. But if I know my lender is a short-term lender, 6 months, then I ensure that I'm buying steep enough that the down payment from the end buyer clears that note, or it's close enough to where I'm like, it's not going to hurt me if I have to come to the closing table on the exit to clear that balance or underlying note.
Okay, yeah, that's what I was thinking, with because I use a lot of private money as well.
Mhm.
And, to get them out, I thought probably your down payment was getting pretty close to
Right.
getting them out of the property.
Yeah.
Cash them
Sometimes
out.
it barely covers it. Sometimes I get down payment that covers it and I get cash up front. So it's just that's the cool thing about notes in general is it's essentially the Wild West. Another thing, I'm no CPM, no attorney. I know a little bit. But we in the land business in regards to owner financing are we don't adhere to the same compliance regulations as people running owner finance businesses in the single family world, meaning Dodd-Frank and a variety of other things are a non-issue when dealing in land. Versus, and depending on the state, there's a lot of regulation, meaning you can owner finance one house or one mobile home, one property without using RMLO, and some states require you to use an RMLO out the gate. And so I think that regulation is beneficial to the general public because of obvious reasons. You don't want to be selling something to somebody that can't afford it, and you put them in a tricky situation, but allows us to scale in limited expenses in that fashion as well. So the basic point is there's a lot of things in land business that are misunderstood, and a lot of people think they're risky for one reason or the other, but arguably less risk, less competition, less headache. Everything is just much easier.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Once you take the structure off of it, there's nothing like that you have to deal with.
Right.
It definitely does simplify things.
Yep.
And I feel like the land business is a good way to get into the real estate business.
Yeah.
Versus the flip business. That's I still flip houses and do those things. And it's kind of funny because on the way over here, I'd been to a closing on a property that I just recently flipped, Travis and we were on the phone talking, and I was being a little disappointed by how everything worked out and the amount of profit that we made versus the amount of money that was spent versus the amount of time that I spent,
Yeah.
even though it was good, it just
Yeah.
wasn't what we had anticipated.
Right. Well, I mean, when it's good, it's good. I mean, I've made a bunch of money in flipping houses.
Yeah.
And even when flipping houses, it's a 70% rule. The 70% rule is garbage. That's how you satisfy your hard money loans. In general, the 70% rule is complete and utter gibberish because it doesn't account for a lot of the unknowns. Mainly in regards to, is your ARV right? Probably wrong. Is your rehab right? Probably wrong. Your carry cost, all of your utilities, the unknowns. As soon as you mistakenly break a piece of drywall and you got to pull that section out, oh shit, there's dead rats in here. Now, where are all the rest of the dead rats? Now you got to pull all the drywall out. There's just so many things in the flipping game that is unknown that make it seem appealing in the beginning, but once you've done a few, you're like, it's not that fun.
Yeah, yeah, it definitely, it's definitely an apex business in the real estate business. It's there's a lot of moving parts.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
very,
And I was just over it. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So, but yeah, it was just funny that we were having that conversation an hour ago.
Yeah. I mean, when it works, it works. It's wonderful. But everybody in the flipping game has had at least one property where they're like, why am I flipping houses again? This is pretty dumb.
Yeah, yeah,
But
definitely.
I mean, it was years before I decided to stop flipping houses because when it's good, it's good. And if one out of every 20 go bad, you're like, all right, I guess I can deal with that. But it was not only the risk of that, but it was just the constant driving from property to property because nobody does what they say they're going to do, and it just got old.
Yeah, Brandon, man, I'll tell you what, you gave a lot of value today, man. We really appreciate you. Like
Yeah.
you gave more than what I thought you would, man. You're a go-giver for sure. But yeah, I mean, I appreciate you. We're running out of time. I just wanted
Yeah.
to say that before we go, and I let David call us out. But now before we go, how can people contact you, man? Like how can people reach you directly if they can?
Facebook primarily.
Okay.
Yeah, Facebook. I'm on Instagram, but not very much, but at least not business wise. Facebook is where I do all of my business social media for the most part. And yeah.
And you have, plug yourself in. You have like you have a community. You have Facebook groups, things like that. Like people can join your atmosphere, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I appreciate that. I do have a small Facebook group. I don't know how to grow Facebook groups, so it's not going anywhere quickly. But I do have a small group where I try to do a little bit of advice, and I got a little sidetracked, and I was doing weekly Q&As similar to this. But yeah, I've got the Facebook group. I just renamed it, so let me think about. It used to be Smart Investors, but now I changed it to Wholesaling Houses and Land or something like that. I can I can send you the link. I have a podcast, which I told you beforehand that I have slacked on a little bit, the Fearless Pursuit of Freedom podcast, where I interview similar to this, where I just bring on generally real estate investors. And I do like we did here. I want to learn what they're doing, see if I'm missing out, see if there's anything little golden nugget I can grab. You mentioned in the beginning, David, that I've got Operation Freedom. Operation Freedom is a nonprofit where we dig wells in Nigeria. And on dedication day, we provide medical aid and food to every single family in that community. And about 2 years ago, I bought a software company called Deal Manager Pro. It's a real estate investor CRM. There's a lot of tools and features in that CRM that are geared toward single family investors, meaning we've got a rehab calculator, a exit strategy analysis, a profit analyzer. We've got data, direct mail, skip tracing. We now have a dialer with automated follow-ups for SMS and emails. So that's been a fun little adventure for me. So those are all the things that I do, and I'm happy to talk about any of them. I love talking about Operation Freedom. I'd love to be digging 100 wells a year. So yeah, I mean, as you've noticed, I don't care about giving any details of any aspect of my business. It's not something that I hide like most people do. You can ask me anything. I'll show you HUD statements or whatever you want to prove that I know what the hell I'm doing. I will show you that I made $3,000 or $100,000. It doesn't matter to me. I'm an open book.
Hey, we appreciate you, man, like for real. And that tells, just you coming on here and being on time and showing up, that's what it takes, right? So guys, just, that's the thing I was thinking before I go. Like, me and David's been doing these weekly for the past like almost 20 weeks now consistently. And, every week we show up and we've brought the same type of, we do the same thing in real estate is we just show up. Like if
Right.
you guys just show up, keep showing up to the calls, keep showing up for yourself. That's really what it takes. So we appreciate you, Brandon. And hopefully we can have you come back. Would you be open to that?
Yeah, anytime. Yeah, yeah.
Awesome. David, you want to lead us out here, man?
Yeah, Brandon, thanks again, man. I really appreciate you speaking direct with us and talking and just giving us giving us everything. Like
Yeah.
you said, you didn't hold back, and that's good stuff, man. You give some really really good points there, and I think our viewers and people that watch our replay and people in our group and stuff that'll watch us tonight will get a lot of value from it. So I do appreciate it, and I appreciate Sandra checking in with us as well.
If
So.
she's, yeah.
Yeah, I kind of need to know what this guy's doing, so I figured I'd
Well, we appreciate you coming on.
thank you.
Okay. All right, everybody. And we've got a special announcement we wanted to announce today before we go. We have a new school channel, and we're just kind of getting started with it. And we have released our first deal analysis. It's a real deal. It's a deal that we done recently. We made $49,100 or $700 or something like that on a property. So if you would like that link, it's not available to the public yet. Just reach out to Travis or myself. Just DM us, deal breakdown, reach out to us, and we'll send that to you. And on behalf of Brandon, Travis, I appreciate you guys watching. And as always, learn it, execute it, and repeat it. Thank you for watching.